Welcome everyone to another Taos machine translation webinar. This, as you may know, is one more in a series of Taos MT webinars where we invite machine translation technology developers and providers and users of the technology to share different kinds of things, best practices, use cases, latest features, latest technology developments. First of all, I hope you're all safe and healthy at home. As you might notice, for the first time in this webinar, we've opened up the cameras, so you should be able to see all of the speakers. My name is Milica Stepanic, and I will be one of your hosts today. Together with me here is Jaap van der Meer, the director of Taos, from the Taos side. Hi, Jaap.
Hello, welcome everybody.
And we, as always, have our regular co-hosts, Janice Campbell, who is the Senior Program Manager at Adobe, leading the MT team there, and Alon Levy from Unbabel, who is the VP of Language Technologies. Hi, Janice. Hi, Alon.
Hello, everyone.
And finally, big welcome to our speakers, Chris Wendt and Andy Jones, both industry veterans and both leading the program or the development of automated translations at their respective organizations, Microsoft and Nikon. Hi, Chris. Hi, Andy. Happy to have you here.
Hello. Hello.
So we hope that you can see us all, first of all. Thank you for joining this webinar. Once again, I will share a few housekeeping items before we move on. So first of all, this webinar is recorded, so you will receive a recording afterwards. We have a full room, which makes us really happy, but it also means that we cannot necessarily open up the microphones for questions. So, but we still really want to get all of your questions. Please submit them through the GoToWebinar module that you should be able to see on your right-hand side. Our co-host Janice and Alon will pick them up at the end and will during the panel discussion, and will address them. If you have a question for one of the speakers specifically, please note that in your question as well. So before I introduce the agenda, I would like to quickly give the word to Jaap van der Meer to introduce a slight change in the, well, slight, I say a slight, but it's a big change in Taos Events 2020. So yeah, Jaap, off to you.
Thank you, Melissa. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Yeah, all right. Yep. Yeah, I had some audio problems before, so thank you. Yes, as you may have seen yesterday, we've issued a press release with some announcements about changes in the both content and delivery of our events this year. And now on the delivery, that's obvious, and this year is different from anything that we've seen over the history of our industry. And we'll talk a little bit about the scheduling of our events at the end of the webinar. About change in content, we've announced this theme of massively multilingual. What we mean by that is that we really like to kind of change from localization as a process to a state or a system of multilinguality that's kind of embedded in our technology infrastructure, in our enterprise. So it fits so nicely into the topic of this webinar, translation automation in the enterprise, and a lot more, of course, about massively multilingual and what it means to all of us in this ecosystem in the many events that we will plan virtually for this year and the big conference beginning of next year, but more about these dates and the scheduling at the end of the webinar. So that, to put it a little bit in context for now, and I don't want to take up more of your time. Really excited to go right into the presentations of Chris and Andy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaap. And you're right, it ties really nicely into the topic, the main topic of today's webinar, which indeed is the automated translation in the enterprise. Now, I don't want to reveal too much of the presentations of our speakers, but I do want to say that machine translation is a technology that's well, turning 70, as you fairly pointed out, Chris, in your paper, but it's mostly been associated with cost reductions and increase in speed, and not so often with the quality. Now, that's something that we would like to tackle today. So Chris will tell us a little bit more about where in that triangle, speed, cost, and quality, machine translation as technology stands today, and what we can expect in the near future, and how we can efficiently and responsibly go about the technology. And then Andy will tie into that with expectations around neural machine translations, but also fears that some of you might have. And finally, we go into a panel discussion led by Janice and Alon, where we will also address your questions. So with no further ado, I will hand the microphone over to you, Chris. So let's see.
All right, thank you.
Very welcome. You should be able to share your screen now. And yes, there we go.
You can see it? You can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. Okay, machine translation in the enterprise and factor 1000. So the factor 1000, keep that in mind. You'll see it twice or maybe 3 times in this presentation. So why are we doing machine translation? Of course, we want to translate for a low price at high speed. Where are we with the price? Calculated here what it would cost to translate 1 million words. Human average price 25 cents per word would cost you $250,000. If you translate it with a machine, costs you $280. I should say this is Microsoft's most expensive machine translation that we offer. It doesn't get any more expensive than that. We have also a cheaper version. It is the uncustomized machine translation. So then we are even way below the factor 1000 if you are going to use that. So generally, how you use automatic translation in the enterprise, you start with some original, you machine translate it, you maybe give it to give a human to post edit, or maybe you are brave enough to publish the raw machine translation. You have that on in your repository of translations, and from there you publish your translation. This is the general workflow. You can go the human route, or you can go the raw machine translation route. There are several ways to improve on this. Number one, you can use your translations to customize the machine translation system to adjust it to the terminology and style of your enterprise, and you improve the system using that. Of course, you can also use your historic repository of monolingual and bilingual documents to improve the automatic translation system. There are data sharing organizations like TAUS that you can where you can purchase or acquire additional training data in your domain and make it even better. Then, of course, you can use business intelligence to help decide whether this document is unsuitable for raw publishing and needs to have a human review. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in the later section of this slide. Of course, what you want to aim for is to increase the amount of raw machine translated material and minimize the amount of human post editing that is necessary. Okay, to put it in context here, we already said machine translation costs you about 1/1000th of the human translation. Looking at around the world, how much automatic translation is already done versus human translation, we also have a factor of 1,000 more. Every day, machines translate about 1,000 times more words than humans do. That's based on the estimate of that there are about 1 million translators on Earth. Each one translates about 2,000 words a day. And if you take the output of the machine translation providers across the globe, including Google, Microsoft, Baidu, Yandex, Naver, count them all together, we conclude that it's about factor 1,000 more. My claim is it's not 1,000 times worse. The quality of machine translation is not 1,000 times worse, so you have a benefit here. So how much worse is it? Oh. Looking at the history of automatic translation, you already introduced 70 years ago, the machine translation quality increases in waves. It's not a smooth line. Every 5 or 10 years, we have a major technological breakthrough, which drastically increases the automatic translation quality. And in between, we fine tune that technology, the algorithms of it, and we can always do something with additional training material, better filter training material, better selection of training material, and this all brings us closer to human parity. We can argue how far away we are from human parity. I should say myself, I'm looking beyond that. Humans are human. They do make mistakes. Machines have the ability to do less mistakes, but we're not there yet. So where are we? What's there? What's missing? We're getting closer to parity. We're getting closer to parity for the top languages of the world. It's generally, I say, the top 20 languages of the world. We are getting close. Below that, it's the distance is a little bit farther. So, but what are we actually missing here? If we look at the top 20 languages of the world, we're still missing. Mostly, we're missing document context. There's a non-zero chance of catastrophic mistakes. A few words on that in the rest. The translation system is missing real-world knowledge, which is in many situations is actually quite helpful. Humans have an uncanny ability to perceive, and remember that real-world knowledge machines are not quite there. I'm not going to talk about that, and this is not a complete list, but I'm going to talk about the first two ones here a little more. Document context, there is the whole document context. It's working quite well in the research labs. Some of the machine translation providers are shipping systems that use this or that aspect of whole document context. For us currently, it is in the experimentation phase. It's not quite there in terms of it is there in quality, so it's really noticeable quality improvement. We're not quite there in terms of the speed and performance, so we cannot really run that economically at large scale, but it shows it's working quite well. Just a little example here where typically breaks. That's the cross sentence transfer of knowledge. I have an English sentence here where the second sentence depends on what was said in the first sentence here. My native language is German, so I can judge this here quite well. So the first in German, the son is female. And in the second sentence, we have forgotten that we were talking about a female subject here, and it uses neutral gender, so a German reader has no idea what you're talking about in that second sentence because it just doesn't match the first one. All right, but as soon as we treat it as the same sentence, we get a perfect translation out of it. So this is the actual machine translation here from Microsoft Translator. Favorite catastrophic mistake example, that is a message that we translated, and it was an earlier version of our neural translation system, which had a much higher chance than our today's system of omitting subjects, so omitting concepts of the sentence. So something that was in the original just disappeared in the translation. So the original Dutch says here the Netherlands and Australia make Russia responsible for shooting down of the flight MH17. And we translate it as the Netherlands and Australia are responsible for its share of the MH17 of the flight. Terrible translation, but most terrible is that we just completely butchered the meaning of that sentence. So it happened. It's an older system. It was in the early days of neural machine translation systems that highly preferred fluency over correctness. We have adjusted it. Well, the fluency is not that great of the sentence either, but certainly it was catastrophic that we made that mistake. Here's a classification of catastrophic mistakes that can happen with automatic translation. Inverted negation, what you saw before was not exactly that, but it can happen that we miss or invent no or not. So we say when the original says do not do this, the translation says do this. That can have a catastrophic effect. Change number or unit of measurement, for instance, can happen with, say, Asian numbering systems that are based sometimes on a grouping of 10,000 rather than 1,000, and when we translate a long complex number, we get confused about those. That can be really bad. Falsified person names and title happened to us. We translated crown prince to king. You would think not a big deal, but when it comes to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it is a big deal. Then religious figures or symbols placed in unfavorable content. That happened to us a couple of times. Not that great. We talked about the omissions and the hallucinations. So hallucination is the opposite of an omission. It is just content added. Sometimes it's harmless. I see that on Facebook occasionally. It's just a phrase that's just repeated in unreasonable amount of times. But if that happens in the right context, it can be bad. So just a quick look at the pros and cons here. Obviously, pros: machines translate 1,000 times cheaper than humans, infinitely faster than humans, and they translate with a quality that is approaching human translation quality. Con is machines can introduce translation mistakes that need to be corrected by humans. So I now want to talk about how we can mitigate that con factor by introducing some business intelligence here. So assume we have maximized this raw machine translation path here, and we go ahead to publish. We have a relatively small amount of documents going through human post-editing. So we want to target that relatively small amount of human post-editing to the documents that really need it. and business intelligence helps us to decide which documents those are. There are a couple of quite prevalent ones. Of course, page views, right? You don't need to spend human translation on a page that nobody ever looks at. However, you know that only once you publish the page. Of course, you could use the page views on the original language, maybe in many cases English, and then decide once that passes a certain threshold, then I'm going to trigger the human translation. That may be off a little bit, so you could just use a business intelligence on the already published automatically translated page, raw translated page, and then once you pass the threshold, you pass it through human translation. You could use a confidence score. Some machine translation systems and some translation memory systems generate the confidence score that you can use to have automatically judged what that or guessed what the quality of that document is. You can classify the documents. You can, of course, listen to user escalations or employee escalations. Hey, here, this page is not translated well, just pass it through human translation. You have a mechanism in place to do that quickly. I know there are providers that offer to do that in minutes or hours. And then, of course, you can trigger it by the importance or value of the item. If it is a highly valuable, say, a very expensive item that you're selling, or a highly visible or a document with high embarrassment factor, you could just preset it for human translation. I mentioned that there are quality differences between the languages. So I have an example enterprise here that translates into 5 languages, and the languages are ranked by the expected quality or by the known quality of translations in these languages. This is somewhat of a realistic ranking here. If you start with English, Spanish, and French, give you a really good automatic translation quality. German is maybe a little bit below that. Japanese and Korean are further below that. So assuming you have classes of documents, highly valuable classes, a class of highly valuable documents. Those are the ones with the high embarrassment factor, no tolerance for mistakes. You may choose only to do automatic translation, raw publishing for the top languages. You have, say, medium level documents where you have a higher risk tolerance. And you have the low risk documents, maybe knowledge-based articles with less than 10 page views a month, where you can be brave and expose raw machine translation even for the lower ranked languages. So what actually is the ranking of languages? Of course, you could determine that for yourself, or you could ask your provider, how do you rank your languages? So I'm getting asked that question quite often. So how do you rank your languages? In the past, I only gave that out privately, so to speak, because I wasn't really so sure about that ranking. We have put some metrics in place that we think allow that to be done with a little more safety factor. So what we did here, in order to come up with this ranking, we compared the human evaluation of automatically translated sentences to human translated sentences, same source, human translation, automatic translation, judged by a human, and then we calculate the delta of the rankings. So for the top languages here, so for the top 10 languages that you see on the left here, the delta between the human translation quality and the machine translation quality is just about 0, indistinguishable. As you go further down, that delta increases. There are no really, I mean, for my eyes, there are no really big surprises here. You may be surprised that Japanese is ranked pretty high here. That's the reason for that is that Japanese rank human translation really low as well. So they rank automatic translation really low as well. So if you calculate the delta, it's really not that big. But don't take it too literally. So the languages that are, say, less than 10 positions away from each other, they are not that different, right? But if you go further down, say Italian is clearly better than Icelandic, for instance, right? And Danish is clearly better than Urdu. So you can make these judgment, and that helps you come up with a ranking like I used it here. Of course, you can determine that for yourself as well. I know many of you do that, so you don't need to rely on my list. Probably you shouldn't really believe my list, right? Because my list here is based on our own test set, which may not be representative of your data at all. But if you don't have anything, maybe you can start with this, and then you can refine it for yourself. See, that's the reason why I didn't really publish that so freely, because there's so many caveats around it that I need to really think carefully how to explain these caveats around it. So in terms of the takeaways, what I would like you to learn from this year, they're publishing raw machine translation. I know and understand that the fear of a catastrophic mistake is a major hindrance, and I hope, and I mean I know I know that having the combination of business intelligence and the ability to quickly update the published documents if there's an embarrassing mistake, it really helps address that. Implement feedback mechanisms and use customization. Customization does work. It really makes the automatic translation much more adjusted to your terminology and style, and helps to produce terminology that is just outside the activity of your business. Then really make use of business intelligence. Think of all the things that are listed there and whatever else you can come up with to maximize the flow of raw machine translation and target exactly the right documents to pass through human translation. Think of uses beyond product localization. I know that Andy is going to talk about that. Examples are the intra-company communication, where the quality is not that important, and of course think of it as a product feature where your customers can benefit from it. This is all in the sense of removing the language barrier, which I consider my job, my team's job, and that's what we're trying to achieve. Right. Thank you for listening. Passing it on to Andy.
Thank you, Chris. So questions around the factor 1000, keep them coming. Andy, I've just made you a presenter, so you can share your screen now, and now we'll transition into another use case that ties really well into what Chris was just talking about. Enjoy.
Great. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. I will discuss our experiences with managing expectations, the nearly euphoric and sometimes fearful, that come with automation centered around neuromachine translation. First, a quick introduction to Nikon Precision. We are closely related to our cousins at Nikon Camera, but our products are a much bigger scale. Known as scanners, our cameras seen here are just over 3 meters or 11 feet tall. Inside, however, are some of the main features of a camera. These are used to print computer chips and are found in super clean fabs. This may look like our new normal, but the isolation of the fab plays an important role in one workflow, as we will see later. And I should also point out that we mainly translate from Japanese to English, so it's a little different, the ranking. Well, it's about a C ranking in Chris's slide, I think, in some cases. Before we go on, I would like to set the automation bar very low. This is not just to make us look better. The contrast with today is significant. In the 1500s, when the stele on the left was made, there was no automation. A minor error would remain forever, but so would the final result. Even when printing progressed, the amount of work required to just set up the type, especially in a Chinese character or kanji culture, was immense. In the past few years, as Chris's chart showed, the automation bar has gotten extremely high. The speed demanded to get translation is basically now. The key to satisfying this demand is neural machine translation. This change in the past few years has created wild expectations. Expectations that all translation work is gone forever, and that, in parallel, all translation costs will disappear. The graph on the right shows what, in fact, has happened to our work. We have used automation centered around NMT to basically remove the human translation step, the green area. So where we used to spend about equal time on translation and edits, we have replaced human translation with MT and shifted human work to post-editing, yellow part. This not only saves time, it also allows for more work on quality control. This helped decrease our workload to the extent that we rely less on outsourcing translations, from around 35% in 2015 to 5% last year, and it is even less now. In addition, some of the content we human translated before is now only being machine translated in a separate workflow, as we shall see in a minute. This shift was seen as a gift, perfect and free translation. And so the challenge is to explain how it did create great value for the company in terms of speed and lower costs, but it also changed the nature of the work and therefore the shift to different tools, different funding requirements. We need to redefine what we do. As an example,
Yep, I see you moving, and I see the rest frozen.
I can still see you guys, but I lost Andy.
Yep,
Me
I
too.
think we
Did
all
I?
lost him.
Last Andy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's, and you're back. We lost you
okay,
for a moment. She
okay,
might have to rewind.
rewind.
Yeah,
Okay.
five last 5 sentences or so.
Yeah.
Just a second. My punchline is gone. Just a second. No. Okay. So what we need to do is we do less work managing projects dealing with various translation deadlines and so on. And instead, we spend our time working and refining data, which is used to automatically manage tools and workflows. It's a big challenge, though, and one we continue to work on, and yet we sometimes get, the MT is perfect, so why do we need to pay translator I? On the linguist side, and this is for all linguists, in-house and vendors, there's the new work component, and along with it, the how much do we get paid factor. The graph shows how much the error rate of MT has decreased over the past few years, from an average of 82% to 43% last year. And the pie chart in the lower right shows our latest evaluations, all looking pretty good. And this, by the way, is a highly customized engine. Shown in the balloons are corresponding changes to payments negotiated with vendors. There's still some variability. The point, of course, is to reach a happy medium, and it changes with quality improvements. These discussions are a lot less painful when there are tools and training available to make the new work easier. Adaptability to the new world, as always, is a key to success. And we expect more vendors to join the post-edit ranks going forward. Still, we get the eye. So what are the workflows behind the situations we have been describing? We now have three main workflows. The first is nearly fully automated. We use this for about 70% of our content, including small workflows for chat areas, software update platforms, and so on. The second is simple MT with an post-edit on-demand component. The third is the traditional method, which we will X out for now. It accounts for about 30% of our work, though it is also all machine translated, so we get some benefit. This is a high-level view of workflow number one, which uses some business intelligence. The main ones are using metadata in the second step there to determine which sub-workflow is used. Also automatic work assignments, due date setting, and so on. The manual steps, two of them in green, are post-editing and desktop publishing or formatting. This last, desktop publishing, is now our highest cost. Workflow two is a simple one. Anyone in the company can come in this web page, drop in text or add a file, and then click translate in the bottom right corner. We call it flash trans, and the character is shown here. This workflow is probably the biggest change for us, and if we measure success on how well something satisfies the customer, we can show success to some extent using this workflow. Here is the scenario. First, imagine you are in the clean room suit shown in the first slide. Now imagine you are an engineer in one of those suits in a clean room in the US or Europe, and you get an email or message like this. Imagine what sense that message would make. And then imagine trying to find a translator inside the clean room, or having to take off the suit, find a translator, then regown and go back in the fab with the translation. This is a problem no more. Using flash trans, they get a gist of what the message said, and it makes a world of difference. Even though it isn't perfect, they get it. Our data on the use of flash trans in 2019 shows that the workflow satisfies the need. It was used almost 36,000 times, machine translating some 490,000 pages that would have cost millions to human translate, though impossible in actuality. Still, given the chance to easily request a post-edit, only 0.002% of the users needed it. And although it is a quick fix, in most cases, it is no longer the durability of the translation that matters. Besides the gowning hassle just mentioned, even having to wait for a human translation could mean the translation is out of date and useless. And prior to FlashTrans, in desperation, they used untrained, unsecure internet empty sites, often missing the point and kissing our content goodbye. Our conclusion is that managing expectations is a key, and we try to do that by continuing to ensure customers are satisfied, and probably the only way to do that is with NMT. Also, helping linguists in the transition, both with training and in pricing. Then, helping management understand that there are core tasks, and even though it is true that some costs are reduced dramatically, those tasks will only be robust, fast, and high quality if we invest in the new tools and methods. And finally, until human parity is really realized, keep the management away from the hype. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Appropriate ending. And well, it's time for questions. So I'm handing this over to you, Janice and Alon, so you can kick it off, and then we'll also get some questions from the audience.
Yeah, we do have some already there. Would you mind, Alon, if I ask a question first?
Oh, please go ahead, Janice, and then I'll ask one as well.
Okay, so both of you mentioned using business intelligence in order to make decisions. And, Chris, you said, you should dare to publish raw. And you said the fear of catastrophic mistake is kind of a hindrance. I'm not sure I would say that. I think it's more about awkwardness, that it will, it's not necessarily the fear of catastrophic, because that's not something that happens so frequently anymore. It's more about, kind of awkward, wonky sentences maybe give you sort of a bad brand image. But getting back to the business intelligence, you talked about some, and I think to classify them as some decisions need to be made before, some after you decide to go public with your raw translation. Maybe you need to use them jointly together. As far as analytics, one thing about the page views is, if you feel like there's not a lot of traffic, then if it increases, you should definitely probably think about human translation then, or post editing or something. But what about if the volume and the traffic is already high? Should you dare to go raw? So I think there has to be some other kind of indicators, like how do we get feedback? What if a person doesn't navigate away from the page? How much session time, time on page, how much, do they actually navigate away to your source language page? So have you thought about those kind of situations, either one of you, about whether or not you get any kind of user feedback through some kind of feedback badge or some other type of indicator, either behavior-wise through analytics or through actual feedback that comes to you in a survey or some kind of click on a page to give feedback?
Andy, can I start?
Oh, yes.
User feedback has always played a big role. People give a star ranking on the article. The important there is to ask not how good is the translation, but did this document serve the purpose that we all assumed it would give you? How well did it? So in terms of a knowledge base, did this article help you solve the problem, right? And then you can look it up, and you can look at the delta between the languages, and if one language solves that problem, the other language doesn't, there's obviously a mistake, and then you can use that in order to trigger that human review. My list of business intelligence was by no means complete, so take whatever works. What I mean to emphasize though is do not focus on the translation quality as the trigger. Focus on the actual purpose of that document or that piece of text, and take that as your main trigger, because the users generally are not able to judge the translation quality. Andy, do you want to?
We got some feedback, and it's a critical part of how we train the engine. That's the main part of that. But for business intelligence, it's, as Chris said, we first take the purpose of the document and kind of work backwards about what workflow we use, and then mainly it's business need that people say, okay, we need this document at this time and for it continuously. So we work that into our system. We don't have that much. We don't publish on the web, and so there's a lot of things. We're kind of conservative in that respect.
So can I jump in also? And my question really was related to what Janice was saying, but I wanted actually to focus more on the capabilities of automatically then detecting the quality and exposing the quality of machine translation as part of the output that's actually delivered by the services or by the adapted engines, internal engines, in your case, Andy. So in order to make business decisions, I appreciate all of these other factors that you brought up there, Chris, in terms of like business intelligence, but it seems like actually having the ability to expose at least some rough measure of translation quality with the machine translation that's generated in real time, along with that, would actually provide quite meaningful, useful information for customers to be able to apply this business intelligence and to actually make decisions about when to publish raw versus when to actually send to post editing. We do that a lot internally in the work that we do in our solutions at Unbabel. But I also issued sort of a challenge to all of the MT providers at the TAUS conference last year and I don't think that anyone has really picked me up on that challenge of actually generating confidence scores or quality estimation scores with every machine translation that you generate. I know that's not an easy problem, but I was hoping you guys could say a little bit more about what you think about that and if there's been any progress on that front.
Can I talk first, Chris, just quickly? So that is a great point. So when I talked about a shift of our work, it's in the direction of things you're talking about, but we really don't have the skills or knowledge to do those works. But it's definitely a big topic for us, the next stage, and so I hope Chris can answer your question.
No, sorry, I cannot answer that perfectly satisfactorily. Satisfactory would be if we had shipped it already. We haven't, so yes, it's not there. There are some workarounds that you can do. For instance, some of the translation management systems do that based on, say, repository of translation memory.
But right now, for us, it's all manual. It's a lot of work to evaluate the quality and make adjustments, and it's not real time at all.
Yeah, particularly on detecting catastrophic errors, the way that you described them, Chris. I think there are simple things that could be done about automatically detecting catastrophic errors when they occur and flagging them, and even that would already have quite a bit of value into many enterprises and commercial use cases.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm sure both of us could ask a lot more questions. I certainly have some, but
Yeah.
there are a few questions there. Did you want us to read them, Melissa, or did you want to go ahead and see what some of the audience has to say?
Yeah, sure. Just you can continue and pick a few.
Well, after Alon brought up the quality part, then we have to ask the first question that came up, which is, what's the best way to assess quality of NMT, and what are some of the useful tools, applications, and kind of scoring methodologies I would add to that? That's probably Chris.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
People are the best judges of quality, and I would rank the say the intelligence of humans. No, was wrong start. I would focus the intelligence of humans first on really the purpose, and then on the translation quality. You get your actual users to tell you how good that article was. So make use of that. Look at the say 5-star ranking and see how you're doing. Be careful to not compare the languages to each other. That doesn't work. But within the language, you can compare the articles to each other, or the pieces of information that you present. And then you can use humans also to generate some metadata, like I did it when, not me, my team did it when producing those comparisons between the quality of human translation and machine translations. That comes from human. A human went there and judged that. We use the direct assessment methods that has been established by the Workshop of Machine Translation. That's an annual competition of researchers in some industry. Competing with the MT systems, or having the MT systems compete with each other, and the evaluation there is the same as what we are using. You can ask me later. I can send you the reference article for that direct assessment method. The other one, my preferred way of having the actual users judge it through their behavior or feedback is preferred, but it is somewhat more expensive to implement.
I can just quickly add, we only use humans to evaluate. We use DQF. It's a very useful tool. I know it sounds like a plug for Taos, but the fact is, it really is a great tool.
Oh, there's a lot of questions, so maybe you could pick one out Alon, because I see quite a few of them. One from, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually don't see the questions on my side.
Okay.
So Janice, okay. Can you go ahead and pick?
Sure. There was Adam, you had a question about why I don't see it now. Did you delete it? But it was a question about the Chinese. Why did it rank so high in Chris, in your list there? Is it also, what I remember from memory here, is it also related to the Japanese being the disparity between, how low the human translation ranks versus the MT? And why is Chinese ranking so high? I don't know. Both Chinese were there, I think, both traditional and simplified, if I recall.
Yes, the human translations are not that great either. That's the explanation for the Chinese. And for Japanese is that the judges are just very critical, even with human translation. So in both cases we can see that the overall ranking is low for both human translation and machine translation compared to say French. So on a scale of 0 to 100, English French is at say 85, 86, 90. English, Spanish is also there. Japanese and Chinese are in the 60s and 70s on that scale. So they are absolutely lower. But if I look at the delta, the ranking as I presented it comes out.
There's two questions here for Andy, if that's okay, if I could go for that, unless you wanted to answer that question. So one was, what types of content are you talking about specifically? And the other one is, well, actually, there's quite a few for Andy, but everything seems to be about results and expectations but what about fears? These were both addressed to Andy.
First of all, yeah, most of the document we use content for the workflow number 1, which is fully automated. That's technical documentation, engineering procedures, analysis, and things like that, with fairly high standardized terminology and styles. The other part, the 30% part, is mostly marketing material. It's kind of based on what Chris said, how we divide these things up, but things that are a little harder and higher impact for the customer. But how about the fear one? It's a little tricky, of course, because some people are just been translating for 10, 20, 30 years, and when they want it, it's a change. So it's a natural to be fearful.
It's not about the fear of the translator losing the job, according to the clarification here. It's about the fear within the enterprise of using the MT. Right. That was the question. Sorry.
Oh, I see. So just to clarify, there's really not much fear at all inside, because the results have been fantastic. I mean, it's just amazing that that 490,000 pages of material is pretty much okay. I mean, it satisfied a big need. Let's clarify that.
I think we're getting close to the end. There's a conclusion, but there's one person asking, and I'm sure many people want to know, and you probably won't say, but what MT engine are you using? It's probably Microsoft, right? So if you're willing to say so, otherwise I think we have to go back to Melissa, but.
Yeah, just, I don't want to say so much, but we use three engines, and for various different, depending on what the job is. Some we've highly customized, some we're just customizing. And we also do some English to Japanese. And to use Microsoft as an example, the results from English to Japanese are much better in the uncustomized engine compared to Japanese to English. It's really remarkable for how we evaluate anyway.
Okay. Well, I think it's time for me to take over again for the next 2 minutes at least, and just remind everyone. Well, first, give a big thanks to our speakers, and thank you for sharing the takeaways. And don't forget the factor 1000. Don't believe just yet that the parity is there. There's nothing to fear, it seems. But then again, we still find ourselves in a very, very different world today. So back to that topic for a moment. So I'm going to tie to what Jaap introed at the very beginning, and that's the changed world. That also means for Taos, the change in the way we do our events. So this year there will be no in-person events, which is a big change for us. But there will be a virtual event coming up in June. It's a 4-day event, and we will really be talking about the changing world and the possible scenarios for the whole industry moving on, and specifically in 2021. And then our first in-person event will be next year in March. And it will be the massively multilingual conference. So again, thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you very soon in June at our next event. Yeah, do you want to say a word or two, or?
Just thanks everybody for joining, and thanks Andy and Chris for your presentations, and Janice and Alon for the questions. It's great to see you. Thanks.
I see you too.
Thank you. Stay healthy, stay
Bye-bye.
safe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Right.